The stage smelled of old varnish and sweat. Rows of chairs stretched out before me, the jury, faces stiff as carved marble, waited under the pale lights. My drawing board was propped on the easel, large and trembling as my hands. Paper rustled, a breeze, or maybe I just imagined it. From somewhere in the back someone coughed. I tried to steady my breathing. My lips felt dry and oddly swollen, like I had bitten them during the walk here. All my sketches were in a portfolio at my feet, months of work, endless nights cutting cardboard, struggling with measurements and proportions. The idea I'd chosen was bold. A community centre with roof gardens and labyrinth walks, sunlight twisting through glass, carrying the warmth of Lisbon inside. It was the kind of space I wished for as a child but never found. For a moment I heard a memory. My father laughing with a mouthful of soup, telling my mother, "Joe wants to build for ghosts and wild cats. What next, a house for the moon?" The laughter always lodged in my bones. Even now I felt its echo as I faced the jury. "Present your project," the chairman said, my tongue stuck to my teeth. I saw my classmates in the wings, eyes darting ready. Last week Paulo had joked, "Let's see Joe propose another castle in the clouds." When I'd protested, he clapped my back, grinning, but the jab stayed. Like it was etched into my neck, my voice scraped out softer than I wanted. Designed this for the community of Bairro Alto." My hand shook as I pointed to the central drawing. "The public garden rises in tears." The jurors sat like statues. I kept going, words running together. "Glass allows light, the structure continues above the street." My head buzzed, sweat trickled down my back. The drawing seemed childish, ridiculous, all my work melting into wasted lines. Paulo snickered, someone else stifled laughter. I tried to ignore it. Mid-sentence my mind blanked. Silence. I looked up, the room waited. My hands shook harder. "We'll move on," the chairman said, signaling the worst possible outcome. "Thank you," I whispered. The words sounded stupid. I gathered my things, drawings jumbled, pencil box clattering as I left the stage, each footstep a humiliation in front of the whole room. Outside, sunlight hit me like a slap, heat shimmered from the stones. I walked past the old church, past the bakery where my mother worked. The ache in my chest spread, raw and hot. Lisbon continued to bustle, trams ringing, fishmongers shouting, lives moving forward while mine crystallized in that moment of failure. I ducked down a side street, not wanting anyone, even strangers, to see my face. At home, my little brother sprawled on the couch, the TV flashing. I almost smiled at how unbothered he was, but I couldn't. I went straight to my room, closed the door, and let the tension spill out as tears. The shame of it, being unable to speak my vision aloud, crumbling in front of my peers, felt corrosive. I heard my parents arrive from work, my mother's gentle voice, my father's gruff murmurs. I lay still. Later at dinner he couldn't resist. "How did your presentation go?" Eyes twinkling but cold. I said nothing at first. "Well, Joe," he pressed. I stared at my soup. "It went badly." He made a soft sound, wry amusement. "My mother fussed, you tried your best," but even she sounded worn. After dinner I retreated to my room. The thought of quitting pressed close, a seductive, shaming thought. Maybe they were right, maybe my ideas didn't matter. But through the haze of embarrassment I kept drawing. During long nights hunched over paper, music in my ears, I imagined spaces that felt like home. I knew deep down what it was to crave shelter. To walk Lisbon's broken sidewalks and notice the missing benches, the crumbling playgrounds, the corners where old men gathered under the scant shade of plane trees. I wanted to shape the city more gently, to fill in the gaps nobody else saw. Yet the days grew harder, family made it worse. At my cousin Clara's wedding my uncle asked loudly, "So Joe, still making models no one will ever build?" The table burst into laughter. My mother squeezed my wrist, a silent apology. At home, every pen stroke, every new design had to be defended. "You could be a teacher," my father insisted. "Solid, respectable, or an engineer, proper work." I nodded mutely. The laughter, their dismissal, stuck inside, growing into a hard knot I couldn't swallow. Even my friends drifted away. Paulo and the others found steady work, got promotions at boring firms. I took odd jobs. Cleaning, painting walls, fetching coffee at architectural offices that never promoted me. Rejection letters piled up, firms dismissing my portfolio, saying impractical, unrealistic, not suited to our aesthetic. Yet I couldn't stop. Architecture was the only thing that made my chest expand, that let me breathe fully. I haunted the new public library, sketching for hours, filling notebooks. I visited the ruins of Carmo, tracing the bones of the roof with my eyes, imagining how to heal broken things. One spring day, struggling with freelance drafting for a firm, I read about a new competition to redesign Praça de Saudade just north of the river. A park would be built at the abandoned site of an old tram depot. Anyone could submit. I hesitated. I wasn't anyone, but I remembered the humiliation of my recital meltdown, the chorus of laughter. The thought made my heart lurch, shame but also unspent courage. I drew and drew. I walked the site, felt the ghosts of lost trams, watched the way wind curled litter through the empty square. My hands blistered, my mind hurt. I sketched trelliswork gardens, a playground shaded by tensile canopies, tiered picnic steps where music could spill. I wrote the proposal, scanned everything at a friend's studio, mailed it in, then waited. Summer arrived brash and bright. My clothes stuck to my skin, the city baked in orange heat. I worked odd shifts, paced at night, chewed my nails. The email came in August. Congratulations, you have been selected as a finalist. I stared at the screen, disbelieving. My vision burned, tears pricked my eyes. I ran down the street. I called my mother, shouting into the phone. She began to cry. My father, when he heard, only grunted, well, let's see them actually build it. The next months blurred. I attended meetings. The city council narrowed 4 finalists to 1. I shook with nerves during my interview, but this time my voice came out solid. I explained my vision. They listened, really listened. Several weeks later, a city official called, "You've won." I lay on the floor, gasping. The project became my life. I was hired by a respected firm to oversee the build. I watched actual backhoes and dump trucks move earth where my sketches had lived. I walked among concrete columns that matched my models, breathed in the scent of cut wood and fresh cement. The garden roof grew, a small wonder, each plant raised under the Lisbon sun like hope reborn. It was slow, brutal work. My ideas clashed with the city's budget, the council's doubts, the contractor's sighs. Workers grumbled, deadlines slipped. Some nights I collapsed, needing to fight despair all over again. Doubt followed me. Some old classmates still called my ideas flights of fancy. I started keeping a notebook of small victories, a day when kids chased each other under my archways, when an old man stopped to stroke the new bricks. When the project finished, I barely recognized myself. I'd learned to fight gently, explain instead of plead. The park felt alive. Then, one evening in late autumn, invitations went out. The official opening would be held on a Saturday. My mother phoned. "Did you really want us to come?" Her voice trembled, proud and uncertain. "Yes, please come," I said, surprising myself with how much I wanted them there. That morning I woke before dawn, nerves jittering. I wasn't afraid of the city council or the mayor's speech or the press. I was afraid of seeing the faces of my family, of Bairro Alto where word had already spread, Joe's Ferry Park, the square where nothing good had happened in years. The sun climbed. By 10, the park buzzed with people, children with sticky fingers, old women sitting on mosaic benches, neighbors gossiping in knots. The new trees cast delicate patterns across the plaza. My heart thudded. The ceremony began. The mayor spoke, the schoolchildren sang, the air smelled of roasted chestnuts and crisp grass. I watched as my father wove through the crowd, my mother beside him, her brow pinched with worry. My little brother looked bored already. Nearby, my uncle whispered to a neighbor. Paulo, my old classmate, stood just outside the crowd, hands in pockets. The mayor called my name. Cameras flashed. I stepped forward, suddenly conscious of my sweat-stained shirt, my scuffed shoes. I saw my childhood self reflected in the windows, a boy afraid to speak. They handed me scissors to cut the pale ribbon. The crowd hushed. My mother's eyes burned with tears. I pressed the blades. The ribbon parted. Then the crowd surged into the new square. Children raced towards the climbing garden, shrieking. An older woman wept, touching the smooth railing where so many memories of loss lived. My father wandered, stopped at a bench, sat. Paulo approached, shaking his head with a half smile. "So you really did it." Words caught, then tumbled out. "I did, it's real." He nodded, almost reverent. As people explored the walkways, the sunlight streaming through my glass canopies, my family gathered near the central stair. My father was quiet. For a long moment he watched the fountain, the city's old wounds here now transformed. Finally he spoke, voice rough. "I was wrong, Joe. This is good. It's good for everyone." He looked up at me. I saw both doubt and pride, only pride won. My mother pressed his hand, weeping openly. My disbelief faded, replaced by a lightness that stunned me. And right then, among the neighbors who had mocked me, the cousins who doubted, the classmates who had joked about my flights of fancy, I felt seen, completely seen for the first time. The rest of the day unspooled in small, bright scenes. My cousin Clara beaming, "You've changed the neighborhood, you know." My uncle gruffly clapping my back. Strangers shaking my hand, telling me stories of their own loneliness and hope for this new place. I wandered through the crowd as the sun dipped, shadows lengthening on cool stone paths. I sat by the fountain, memories swirling, the shame, the fear, the silent hours after that disastrous recital, but they no longer burned. I traced the edge of a bench. The materials were real, solid, warm under my hand. I watched a girl leap across sunlight, her laughter ringing out over mosaic patterns I'd drawn in solitude. I watched my family pause to gaze back at me, their faces open, proud. I wasn't a ghost or a failure, I was home. The city's wounds were healing, mine too, and I knew with quiet certainty that this was only the beginning.